Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of the Risk Matrix with myself, Dr. Logan Martin, and my friend James Junkin.
It's Mardi Gras on the bio. Yes, sir. Look here, Mardi Gras beads. You can't see it. Mardi Gras tree, Fat Tuesday, baby, king cakes all around.
Welcome, James, right? Today we got a guest with us also, Justin Barksdale. We'll introduce him in a second. Hi, Justin. So, James, a bird told me you're running for something at ASSP.
I am a candidate for VP of Finance for ASSP. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that.
So, and then that's coming up in March. You guys, I think that if you're an ASSP member, you'll be getting your ballot in March. And voting goes through March and ends or April 1st, doesn't it? Or
March
ends
31st.
March
So
31st.
all members of ASSP will receive an email in their an email ballot from the society. I encourage you to go over, check out the elections page at the website. There's a whole list of candidates there, a lot of great candidates
Our favorite
they're all.
candidate though is James Junkin for VP of Finance. Just so everybody knows, if you're an ASSP member, vote for James. Let's get him in there, get him on the board, and have him help your society financially into the future.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. But I just encourage everybody to go check out the website, check out the platform statements and bios of all the
Look at
candidates.
him being all humble.
Hey, it's your society. It's your society. Go vote. Go vote and participate. And I know Justin's been very active in ASSP in the past and
Absolutely.
still active in the society. And I think I can speak for all of us. Uh, the society's given more to us than we'll ever be able to give back to it. So
Yep.
I just want to be able to take opportunity if I'm afforded that to give back to a group that's really given me a lot in my safety career.
Awesome. Thanks, James. So let's start out with Rip from the headlines. What you got for us today?
Oh yes, out of Nebraska, Horizon Biofuels will be fined up to $147,500 by OSHA for willful and serious safety violations after a deadly explosion at the company's Fremont facility in July of 2025. They are within their contest period. I think it ends until February 19th for the informal conference. This is a result of an explosion that killed a 32-year-old employee and its two daughters, both under 12.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Did they say there why the daughters were at the facility?
It doesn't say why they're at the facility. In the release that came from OSHA, uh, and also published by Nebraska Public Media, it seemed like the worker was working at heights. Not 100% sure on that, but there was this facility used a lot of wood dust, and former regional administrator John Newquist. Some of y'all may know John Newquist from LinkedIn. They reached out to him for a quotation on this. He said, just based on his quote, just on my history of dealing with wood dust, it's everywhere, and that's on them. I mean, they have a responsibility to do basic housekeeping and not have the place so filled up with wood dust that it blows up the facility and kills three people.
Yeah,
And I think
combustible
that's
dust comes in
our.
all shapes and forms, right? We had the sugar factory, combustible dust, wood dust, any kind of dust, any kind of fine dust can cause um, conditions that can explode. So
I think kind of harkens me back a little bit to the H2S incident that happened with Aghorn over in Texas, where you had a father that went out to do his job and work, got overcome by H2S, and his spouse brought their two kids out there looking for him. She goes in, she's overcome with H2S. Unfortunately, the kids were young enough, they were strapped in the back of the car and they were not killed. It's somewhat of a cautionary tale about bringing your kids to work, particularly at high hazard places. I'm all about bringing children to work, but I think we got to use some reasonableness when it comes to facilities that are really high hazard. And now we got a guy that's lost, his life, that of his two daughters. there are no do-overs.
Devastating for the family. So thanks for covering that, James. As sad as it is, I like to bring those things to the forefront and have our listeners see the things that we're seeing as they come across in the news, and have a chance to discuss them, maybe look them up themselves, and get some lessons learned from that. So as I said today, James, we've got a guest with us, Mr. Justin Barksdale, CSP. He's the CEO and founder of Barksdale Safety Solutions, and Barksdale Leadership Solutions, and he's got some things he wants to talk to us about. Um, and I'm gonna let you kick it off with him. Hi, Justin.
Hey, nice to be on the podcast today. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you, Justin. We appreciate you joining us. You know, you're very active on LinkedIn. Justin's a little bit of a legend down here in the Baton Rouge and Louisiana communities. My neighbor, Scott Kemp, uh, says Justin is the bee's knees when it comes to safety. Kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, you know, a little bit. I'm like, bro, we're neighbors and all, but
Neighbor,
Hey,
your
hey, wait
neighbor
now.
said
neighbor,
that.
Wait
man.
now. He's the bee's knees. What are you, the bee's butt?
I guess so. I guess so, man.
That's great.
Hey,
That's
I'm
great.
gonna ask him that later on tonight.
You're the
No
stinger.
payment, no payment was made for that kind of statement at all. I'm just
I mean, I,
saying.
I guess I'd rather be the stinger, Justin, but
Yeah.
But
Oh,
Justin's really doing some innovative work when it comes to professional development for safety professionals. He's got an ebook out. He's very active on LinkedIn. You can find him on LinkedIn. He puts out a lot of video shorts, things that I thought were very, very helpful to safety professionals. So, Justin, welcome to the show, and let's talk a little bit about, first of all, this ebook that you have out.
yeah. No, I'm so excited to talk about it. Thanks for having me today. So, the Safety Pros Edge was just written out of something that I saw a need. And we've already had our first live masterclass, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the ebook really, thinking about what do field safety professionals need. I've been in safety for over 16 years now, and thinking back, looking at folks I've worked with, folks I've supported, folks I've come along, peers, thinking about all that we have to do as safety professionals to protect the greatest asset at our companies and our organizations are the people. And that's what we've been tasked to do as safety professionals. And as I thought about this ebook and what I wanted it to be, is I look across and I'm like, there's a lack of professional presence, as I call it in the ebook. There's a lack of influence that safety professionals need. And I called it career growth, but I'll be honest with you, it's personal growth. And not just, join ASSP or go do this next certification. I'm talking about real daily growth as a professional and what I'm doing to get better and hone my skills to be an asset to the company, to help the company make those strategic decisions that protect, manage risk, and those kind of things. So the ebook's about professional presence, um, how we show up in our influence, and then career growth. So it's a short read, but along with it, I paired a master class that we recorded. It's about a 90-minute master class. And then now, as you mentioned earlier, we've started a community that's just getting started. So it's just grassroots, but 29.99 a month, I think, is on our website. But basically, we're going to start having these kind of calls every month where we hone our skills together. And so that's a little bit about it, but I'm happy to just dive off into any of that you want to talk about today.
Well, you said a mouthful. And, you know, initially when I looked at this, I'm like, you know, this is great for young safety professionals getting into the profession. But really, it's for any safety professional, no
Any
matter
sector.
where you are in your career. I think all of us can hone our skills. You know, they call it a practice for a reason. We never arrive. You know,
That's
just
right.
about the time I think I've got it all figured out, you know what? Here's something new that
Learn
comes up.
something.
And you know, now I'm into energy-based safety. I think energy-based safety is the bee's knees. We're gonna have to do an episode on energy-based safety,
You're
Dr.
gonna
Mark.
have to, for sure. Yeah. I love it.
So, what inspired you to do this? I mean, you got a full-time job, you're out
Yeah.
there working, you're training all the time, you're running your own safety company. What inspired you to do this?
And it's just as you said, it's for any safety professional. I truly, want to make an impact. One of the quotes that I use in a lot of my keynotes from Dr. John C. Maxwell is, I want to make a difference doing something that makes a difference with people who make a difference at a time that makes a difference. And as I step back, I think about the quote, I want to make a difference doing something that makes a difference with people who make a difference at a time that makes a difference. What can I do? I've spent my career, I went from scaffold builder to safety professional, now to business owner, entrepreneur, and leadership consultant. And I'm thinking about my journey of growth and what do I need to know? What can I help somebody else with? And whether it's a new safety professional or a seasoned one. I had some seasoned guys read this ebook and they tell me, Justin, this is stuff every safety professional needs to hear. One of the things I think we mentioned in there, I'll just kind of allude to a little bit. You and I had this conversation yesterday, is this whole thought of how we support the business. And I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not a popular statement that I make, but I'm gonna make it. And by all means, challenge me on it if we need to go back and forth a little bit. But safety's not the number one priority in business. We say
What?
it is.
What?
We say we say
Safety's
it
not number
is.
what is this? What is this you speak of, sir?
Safety is not the number one priority in business. It's not. Number one priority in business is to make a profit. And I said it in the ebook, and I'll say it till the cows come home. If you're a safety professional, your job is to support the business to make a profit. Because at the end of the day, if we're not making money, you're not getting paid either as a safety professional. And so I say that statement to bring it back to this concept of safety's got to be a core value. It's not a priority. Priorities change. I mean, number one priority in business is always going to be profit making. That's the number one. Safety has got to be a core value that we embody, that we help extend, that we help generate, cultivate, whatever you want to say, develop the culture around and make our business even more profitable because we're saving lives, we're saving on insurance money, we're in the savings business. That's what we in. We count. One of my mentors made a comment on the book to me, and he said, Justin, it's a point to be made. We're in the business of counting failures. I mean, you guys started the podcast off with talking about a failure. We count failures. And that's a hard business to be in. So as a safety professional, going back to why did I write this? We have to have a greater understanding of our role within an organization to actually make a difference and help them succeed in what we're doing. We've got to come alongside those leaders to really get the change that we want to see. I can tell you, working in the corporations that I've been, my passion is to protect people while they do their work. And I can get overly passionate about a rule. I can. But at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? We've got to step back and say, how can we do this job safely? I'll end with this statement on here. At my last corporation I worked before I started my business, we had it was in an electric utility, and we had this whole saying within the electric utility: we're keeping the lights on. And it was a mantra. We keep the lights on, in the electric utility. And that's a great thing. It's a heroic thing. But we've got to keep the lights on safely. And so merging operations and safety and making them work together, I just love that. I
You,
love
you know,
doing that. Anyway, so
you know
I
what?
don't
You
want
know
to keep
what
going.
turns the lights off?
What's that?
Penalties, serious injuries,
That's right.
lawsuit, loss of reputation, and those are things that, like you said, are not apparent because they don't happen every day, right? And I love Todd Conklin, and a lot of things he said resonate with me. But I think both of you would agree: the absence of injuries does not equal the presence of safety.
Amen to that. Yeah.
You can have tons of risk that's unrealized. Dr. Martin and I do a ton of legal work and working with counsel and attorney, and she can opine on some of her experiences. But one of the things I like that you said in the need is we understand this is a safety professional. It's why we got into safety, right? We
Amen.
struggle with trying to demonstrate ROI of safety.
That's right.
And, safety
Well,
is a huge expense.
let me interject here. I mean, I think a couple of things come up listening to Justin speak. Um, you know, I agree that there is an undue focus by some safety professionals on, safety is number one, or I've got to do this at all costs, and you know, uh, I think James will back me up and say that I'm super practical when it comes to a lot of things, uh,
It just depends.
but it just depends, right? Um, but I think at the end of the day, um, one of the things that lacks is how we teach safety professionals up front in the educational process, right? Either whether you get a degree, whether you get OSHA, w- you know, education center credentials, whether you come up through the trades, right? Um, we teach people about compliance and best practices. They roll them in together, and then they become absolutes, right?
That's right.
And I I think to change the mindset, we gotta start with some upfront work
Agree.
on some of the things that you're talking about in your ebook and in your masterclass. These communication methods, and I've been preaching this for a long time, right? Safety is a lot more about social skills, sociology, psychology than it is about anybody can slap open a regulation book and bring you into compliance, right? And I mean, that's not to degrade my dear friends in the safety business, but um, it's more of a communication field, um, and a PR field than it is. And this again, this is just my. I'm gonna get crucified for this. This is just my opinion, right? And so, I think we could do a better job up front. You got to change the minds on the back end because there's a lot of us out there that have that initial mindset, but I think we need to do a better job educating our safety professionals up front on what the mission is. Because I think it once you ingrain that, it's hard to uningrain it.
I think I couldn't agree more with your statements, and it doesn't matter how you came into safety. That's the realization that in why again, going back to why did I write this? And again, this is a short, simple read. It's not long. I didn't make it long because I didn't want to, I could turn this into a longer book and maybe I do that, but this is what I wanted, something simple for the guy that started in trade or the guy that's starting in college right now that thinks they want to get into safety and the gal, whoever. And the things you said there are so important because John Maxwell. I love John Maxwell. I'm a Maxwell Leadership certified speaker, trainer, coach. So I'm gonna probably say a couple more quotes today from John Maxwell. But one of the best books that I've read from him is "Everyone Communicates, Few Connect." And if I could say that to, hundreds of thousands of safety professionals, what I would tell you is learn how to not just communicate, but connect with people and understand it is a behavioral thing. It is a behavioral thing that we're doing in our profession. And that's why I talk about influence. If you don't increase your influence with people, you're never going to connect with them and get your point that you're trying to make or your system you're trying to put in place or whatever you're trying to do from your safety program. So I just love that, Dr. Martin. That's spot on with what I'm talking about in the book.
Let let me poke the bear then, right? I mean, I get from you that there's anybody can learn this, right? I call BS on that. I think that there are probably a certain percentage that can learn it. I think there's a certain percentage of people who have an innate skill to connect, and I think there are some people who cannot connect, right?
Yeah,
And
I agree with
I don't
that.
care
There's
how many
some
times they
people.
read your book. I don't care how many times they take your class. They're just not going to connect the dots with people, the train cars, whatever they're connecting, they're not going to do it. So what do we do with those people?
So I'll
I,
tell you,
they
and
become
I love
college
that.
professors.
Yeah,
What?
I love that because
I'm just
as a
kidding.
behavioral analyst, and I'm trained, I'm training some, psychology and behavioral analyst techniques and things like that. And so in my coaching practice, with Barksdale Leadership, I actually work with leaders on this very thing. Yes, I agree with you. I don't think that everybody's, an innate great connector. Can they learn it? Sure. It comes down to this. Do you want to? Do you want to learn it, and do you want to get better? You know, I was not an entrepreneur. I never considered myself one, until several years ago, about 5 when it just became an itch, and I've had to learn a lot. So, but I had a want to, I had a desire. If and this is the problem with leaders, safety professionals. Here's the real problem. We get so stuck in our ways, and we have these blind spots and tunnel visions that we don't realize that we need to grow and be more aware of those blind spots. So yeah, for the person that has the blind spot and doesn't want to know that it's a blind spot and doesn't want to get better, I agree with you. But I think
So, yeah,
there's a lot to be said for a want to.
I
yeah,
I I totally agree. I think there are some
100%.
people that can overcome a whole lot with "I want to," right? And they really work on themselves and they do
And
leadership
look,
stuff.
if
But I
connecting
also
with people is not your thing, there's a role for you in safety.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll tell you,
but
most
not
Administrative
people
tasks,
not too
whatever.
most
Yeah.
many. There aren't
are
too many rules.
surprised.
There
Okay, most people are shocked to hear me say this. I'm not an extrovert. I'm very much an introvert. My neighbor will tell you. Now, I like Scott and his family. They're great. And I'll talk to him across the fence. But sometimes,
You don't want to talk to
you know,
nobody.
if I'm headed to the mailbox and there's a bunch of people, I just try and go back inside. I'm like, I don't, I spend all my day connecting with people all day long. In my private life, I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with a little solitude over here. And so I have to work at that. It's a skill and learning to see things from other people's perspectives. And I just spent a few days earlier this week out with a major company in which they're having huge communication issues connecting between safety and safety's definition of risk, what acceptable risk is, and operations and what their definition of acceptable risk is, which is, hey, the head of their R&D was pretty funny. He said, I'm all for just sign a form and say you won't sue us. And if your arm gets ripped off, it's okay. That's just part of innovation. Well, those two extremes can't exist, right? There's somewhere in the middle of that we
We
can
got to get
find
on the same
common ground.
page. Yeah.
We have to get the job done. We can't get people killed or seriously injured while we're doing it. We can find common ground. But if we're not talking to each other, we can't ever find common ground.
That's right.
And I think probably the area that most people have to improve on is learning how to communicate why. Why are we doing this? I got a good friend that called me yesterday. He went to a company. He interviewed with the company. He told them all about human performance, all about change. They ate it up, and now change has come. All of a sudden, people are reporting injuries that they never reported before. The TRIs out the roof, right? Because now people are reporting injuries, and they're putting him on a performance improvement plan because people are reporting injuries because their TRIs up. You know,
so I think I I think communicating the why, James, is important, right? Knowing how to communicate the why. But if you don't have those skills, which I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a place in safety for people who don't have those skills, and I'm gonna have to highly disagree that there are very few places in safety that if you don't have those skills that you're gonna be successful. Um, that you can communicate the why all you want, but you don't have the finesse behind it's not gonna go anywhere. And let me just finish with this, right? I mean, I was gonna say earlier, I want to be an Olympic athlete. I'm motivated to be an Olympic athlete.
Right.
I want
You're
I
not.
wanna I wanna win the gold medal in curling, and I'm motivated to do so. But you know what? I don't have the tools, and I'm never gonna have the tools to do that. So at some point, where do people get in coaching? I mean, have you met that in coaching that there are people that just this is
Let
not
me
gonna work?
And let me just interject because I don't think we disagree at all on that. I don't think everybody needs to be in safety. I'm just being honest with you. There are people in safety right now. You need to go find another job because this is not the role for you. If you don't like people, if you don't like helping the company protect people, if you don't like connecting with people, it's probably not your gig, to be honest with you. It is very much a people business. But so is leadership.
Right.
And so, going in coaching, sometimes you got to help people see. I go back to the blind spots that, hey, maybe you're more suited for a role, and maybe you're going to be more happy. But there is this fine line too, Dr. Martin, that I can learn. I can learn a lot. And yes, I want to say this to your point. I'm never going to be an Olympic,
I
athlete.
want to
I'm
be.
never going to do it. Okay.
I want to be, Justin. I'm sure you do too, right? I mean,
It,
I'll
but
work at it.
I gotta have realistic goals and things that fit me, and so yeah, there's some balance to what I'm saying
I
here.
mean,
So I appreciate that. That's
I'm gonna
absolutely
disagree with you both.
okay.
Okay,
We can just all
there's
disagree.
faith in safety, but it may not be with the team. It may not be in the field. We need people doing research like nobody's business. I mean, the
Agreed.
only people doing good
Agreed.
research right now is at CSRA. You can be an academic and do research and not interact with people in the field.
But
There's a
that's a
role for that.
very narrow band.
Very
Well,
narrow.
Very
Yeah.
narrow.
it exists, and it is a very
It,
narrow
it
band. You
exists.
can work in labs. You can be in safety admin, but be realistic of what your strengths are. If you're not willing to work and try, then this isn't for you. But that's true of any career. That's any career.
Agreed.
You know,
Agreed.
it's not just safety. You have to be able to relate with people. But I will say this: in the age of social media, we're losing the ability to connect.
Oh,
We're
we could
all
go a
about
whole
people
nother hour
connecting.
on that.
Right? We want people to connect with us and get likes and shares and
Right. Right.
Instagram and TikTok and all that other stuff. There you go. But we don't want to connect with other people. Everybody's talking, everyone's sharing, but nobody's communicating. And I
That's
think
right.
that's what Justin's getting to
Yeah,
in some of his books is, hey, we're used to doing this because it just came natural because we had to grow up together. We had friends on the playground. You either sat in the house and read a book or you went outside and played with folks. You learned how to get along. And if you didn't, you got hit in the mouth, right? And after a couple of bloody noses, you became friends and life went on. Well, some people's entire existence is in cyberspace. You know, they
a real
grow up,
challenge.
it's a tremendous challenge. Then they enter a workplace where they have to interact and we have to get along. And, so I think what you're giving is a useful tool for those of us that might be a little introverted sometimes. We need to get a little bit better, but also for those that are coming out of this background where there's a struggle that they haven't had a tremendous amount of social interaction. Um, if you're going to be in safety, you're going to be in the front. You may have to do training. You may have to go out there and do job site inspections. You may have to help with uh, process hazard analysis or preliminary hazard
You might
analysis.
have to pick
You
up
may
a
have to
shovel.
determine what acceptable risk is. You
Martin,
know,
I love it. You might have to pick up a
but
shovel. That's what
you
I'm talking
might have
about.
to pick up a shovel.
I'm gonna tell you what. There have been many times in the field when I'm working with clients or have worked with a company where I have picked up a shovel and worked alongside
You
people and
connected.
discussed what we were doing, and it went a heck of a long way.
Yes,
Pulled ropes, checked rigging, all that kind of stuff, right? But again, and I'll say this to James' point. I grew up that way, right? I grew up. If somebody was shoveling and there were two shovels, you didn't watch them shovel, right? You shoveled too,
that's right.
um, and some of that trust and some of that camaraderie and that communication comes from, I'm willing to do what you're doing,
Get
right?
your boots dirty.
But
Yeah,
I'm also willing for you to tell me I'm wrong,
that's
right?
right.
You're
And,
wrong.
and let me say
I
this:
am
the safety
No, you're not.
frequently.
safety professionals, we've got to be learn-it-alls, not know-it-alls. We've got to be learn-it-alls, not
Amen.
know-it-alls. It brings a great point to your story there. I was working at a chemical plant. It was as a chlorine unit. We had a cell line, I had been in another unit in the VCM unit. We made vinyl chloride monomer, and then so I'd been moved to this unit,
Little
and
crab will do
I'll
ya.
never I'll never forget. I go out there. We're doing a cell line startup. Now this is when I didn't have a beard, James. So don't worry, okay? I put on my full face respirator. I get all suited up with the guys, and I had an operator look at me. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going out there to start this cell line up with you." You're a safety guy." And I said, "Yeah, that's all the more reason that I need to be out here while we're doing this startup." Because what I knew and what I had heard is that the guys like to take shortcuts and risks. Some of them at the time like to wear half-face respirators because they wanted to feel the chlorine hit their eye and their eyes start to water, and then they knew they were in a chlorine cloud. And they were wanting to be canaries. I'm like, guys, we cannot compromise at this point of inflection. This is where things go wrong. And so my presence out there did a lot that day because they realized I was willing to get, like you said, put my hand to the shovel or get my boots dirty, as I call it in the ebook. You got to get your boots dirty. You got to get out there and learn the work. You got to be a learn it all, not a know it all. And so if you didn't come from the trade or you didn't come from that background, I'm not saying you're going to know everything, but use the front line to your advantage and gain that information to help influence them to do the right behaviors. That's all that I'm talking about. So I love what you said there, Dr.
Well,
Martin.
Justin, you can't ask the right questions if you don't know what process is going on. I'll give you an example, right? I have a client who's in masonry and waterproofing, and I knew nothing about masonry and waterproofing except maybe what I learned from my dad years ago, when he was in the construction trade. But I ask a lot of questions. I watch, I learn, I ask them what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it. Not because I want to jack them up about safety. I just want to know. I just want to know, right? And a lot of my questions are dumb, and some of them they go, I never thought of that. That's a good question. I mean, probably 95% are dumb questions, but 5% hit the mark. And that makes a big difference, first of all, in my learning, of like, I feel very comfortable that I could take on more clients in that arena, but also that I I'm looking at things in a different way than what they would look at it, right?
Right. You've got that different set of cold eyes that's coming in, and asking the right questions is so key. I don't think we ask enough questions, to be honest with you. I think we, I'll set on the masterclass, and I'll ask you to this question, just since we're talking about questions. What's the one? Give me the name of the safety professional that you admired the most. And I know y'all been in safety a long time, so maybe think back years ago. But they help. They're what you wanted to be, and what you saw in this. Think of that person. Who would you say that is?
You go first.
I think it's changed over time, and I'm not gonna mention any names.
Okay.
All right. I'll give you mine.
All right.
Richard Emberling.
Okay. Tell me about him.
All right. Richard does not have a degree in safety. He does not have a CSP. He did own his own safety company back in the 80s and 90s. He is the senior principal HSE advisor at Biofuels. And all he's got is 55 years of bringing people home safe from high hazard
Amen.
jobs.
I
And
love it.
when I have a question, I
Going to
call
him.
Rick.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of questions. And so, uh, and I'm always willing to listen. And thank goodness Richard was always willing to answer, and he didn't get frustrated with me. And so, if I've had any success in my career, it's because Richard, guys like him, when I
Love
was
it.
coming from safety, well, I call them the old breed safety professionals, the old master trainers. They let me make mistakes, but they didn't let me get anybody hurt. They let
That's
me
right.
learn from mistakes, right? And they didn't always give me the answer. They'd make me go find the answer and learn how to do research, etc. So that's my person.
We need more Richards. Go back to your question earlier. Why did I write? We need more Richards. We need more people making a difference in this profession because it's about people. And if we could see that, that's the edge I'm talking about, the safety pros edge, you know?
So
So
let me throw in there, Mr. Richards, very humble individual, very quiet individual. And I'm glad that James mentioned him. Um, he's the kind of safety professional we need, right? I can tell you the kind of safety professionals we need less of, right? The ones that usually are the most vocal about what they know and how they know it and who they know and
good.
and and their suite of services, etc. Usually when somebody talks a lot, They know very little. And that's not to say James and I talk a lot too, right? But we also know where our wheelhouse is. And what I'm not trying to evade your question about who shapes
No,
me,
that's okay.
but everybody I come in contact with shapes me, right?
Yeah,
There are
that's good.
people I call for every different nuance of safety, right? I lean on James when it comes to litigation type stuff. I lean on other people for industrial hygiene. I lean on other people for healthcare situation. I mean, it just again, it just depends, right? And but when you talk about a Mr. Richard is not out there yakking his trap. He's doing his
Yep,
work.
doing
He's
his jig.
doing the work.
Yeah,
We would not have, and I really believe this. I'm on the ANSI Z3 90.1 committee. A lot of great safety professionals on that committee. That's the standard for H2S. But without Richard's leadership, I don't know we'd have a new standard out. You know,
that's
Yeah, but
he
and he's not out looking for the credit.
that's
no,
good.
There are a lot of
he
safety
doesn't want the
professionals that
credit.
are out looking for the credit, and that's
Yeah,
what you need to be wary of.
yep, I like that. No, it's spot on. The question when I asked it in the master class, I mean, who out there has shaped us? And I love what you said, Dr. Martin. Everybody's shaping me. I think I've learned a little bit from everybody, and I have some names I could throw out there. I won't call them out today, but the the beautiful thing is who would say that about you? Who would call Dr. Martin? Who would call James Junkin and make that? That's what I don't necessarily need that, but I want to be a resource to people that years down the road I help them. I want to influence them that way because I'm helping them and developing them. And I'm going back to why I wrote this. It's just to help people. That's it. I don't necessarily want credit for it. I want to help people and I want other people to help people and make a difference.
And let's not negate the people that teach us stuff we don't want to do.
Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you this: there's no better feeling in the world than to be walking through an airport and somebody that you can't recognize, you don't know them from Adam's house cat comes up and says, "Hey, you taught my class 12 years ago, 14 years ago, Mr. James. Man, I use stuff that I learned in that class in every class I teach." And that wasn't because I had any in a great innovation, you know. If anything in safety, we're the great borrowers
That's right.
and copiers, right? I just took things I liked from other people and incorporated it into how I teach. And I think that's great, man. That's a big motivating factor for me. I want people after they leave a class I'm teaching or an interaction or a consulting uh, gig that we're on to come back and say, hey, that guy made a difference in my career, in our safety program. Look, I'm a business owner too. Yeah, anybody that tells you it's not about the money is not telling the truth, but it's not all about the money.
Nope.
You said something at the beginning, and I've always said I want to be part of something that's bigger than myself. That's why, I gravitate to team sports. That's why I was in the
Why you were
military,
in the Navy?
you know, and big supporter of the veteran community now. I want to be part of a team that's bigger than myself. And then when we all win together. And if you have that mindset, and I want you to give that quote by Maxwell again because I liked it. You rolled it off so cool. So I'm gonna pay very close attention. Now I'm gonna go back and write it down because I'll forget it and butcher it. When
Watch
I
the
steal it,
recording, James. Watch the
hey,
recording.
when I steal your quote from Maxwell and use it in the class here in
There
a
you
couple of weeks, I'll give you credit for it. But I want to say it right. Say it again for
So he
emphasis.
said, I want to make a difference doing something that makes a difference with people who make a difference at a time that makes a difference. So, again, not that I need credit. The difference is not, getting credit. It's just making a difference. Moses, I'm gonna forget his last name. He was on our master class for the ebook, and I love Moses. Um, man, he's one of my clients. He's working with them now, and he works for them as a safety professional in the field. He's just doing his job. Probably I'll have to send him this podcast so he'll listen to it. But Moses said, he said, Justin, You know, a lot of safety professionals want to make a day, but here's the thing: you're trying to help us see that we don't just need to make a day; we need to make a difference every day. And so, think about it like that: is I don't want to just show up and make a day out of this. And that's look, a lot of days. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just want to make the day, but I need to wake up every day and say, how can I make a difference for somebody today? That's why I got into this profession, is so that I can make a difference.
So Justin, before we let you out of here, right? We put you on the hot seat for the last 45 minutes. Tell us a little bit more about your masterclass.
Okay.
What you're doing with that, about your coaching opportunities, and what that all entails.
Yeah, so the master class, it's posted online. We've sent the link over to you guys, but the option is you can download the book. Very simply, if you just want to read the book, it's a short read. I promise you'll be done with it in simple, under an hour. If you're, it's not long at all. If you want the ebook and the master class, we did the master class and recorded it, and that's been posted on the platform. So that's on the website as well. I think we've got the ebook download for just $14.99. Ebook plus the master class is like 97. My plan is to do another live master class. Right now, it's just recorded. So if you wanted to watch that one, I think the collaboration on the call was just stellar. It was a small group, but it was a great conversation, and I loved it. I think it's beautiful for anybody to go listen to. And then the third thing that we kind of mentioned was we started this community that's just a monthly, where I want to get anybody that wants to join into the community. We're going to be doing live calls, collaborating on a platform, so it's not like a Facebook, but it has a discussion board and all kinds of things within the platform community that we built. So it's pretty cool, neat little thing. So if you want, something ongoing, or be able to go back and collaborate with people from multiple industries, my vision for this is to grow it. And that's like $29.99 a month for the community aspect of it. But yeah, you can get the ebook plus the masterclass, or ebook in the community and get more ongoing stuff from that we'll be putting together. So I may even have some of you guys as guest speakers into the community. It'd be awesome to do that.
Man, be
Thanks for
honored.
that. So,
That's the
James, do
thank
you want?
Yeah, that's the safetyprosedge.com. Thank you, Justin, for joining us today. Very lively conversation. The safetyprosedge.com. You can also hook up with Justin on LinkedIn. Um, I love your shorts. They get me motivated, man. My energy, low
That's good.
drag,
That's good to
Justin.
know.
Great.
Yeah, I'll keep doing
It's
them.
great. But anyway, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate what you're doing for the safety community and giving back inspiration to us all. Thank you also for our listeners, our followers. Hey, we made it into the top 11 safety podcast in the United States. Hey, we want to get in the top 10, baby, and we need your help. So your mama wants you to like and share the risk matrix. We are over there on Spotify. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Apple Podcasts. And Dr. Martin said, hey, Alexa, play the risk matrix, baby. It will come up and you can listen to us while you're doing whatever you do. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. And if
Absolutely.
you're looking for somebody to vote for in the ASSP election, I just got to give another shout out to my friend here, Mr. James Junkin. He's running for Vice President of Finance. Um, I give him a high endorsement for that. I think he'll be good for your society. I think he'll be judicious with helping them motivate into the next several years with his strengths in finance and running corporations and really helpful in that respect. So vote for James coming up in March for ASSP. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Until next time, y'all keep bringing those workers home safe from high hazard jobs. Roll
Roll
Tide
Tide.
out.